edge computing, IoT, AI, RFID, machine vision, robotics. We talk about a lot of that stuff.
Holy moly, yeah.
Yeah. The future of enterprise technology. It's pretty exciting.
Yes.
To be sure.
I would think so, yes.
But it's also only as good as the networks connecting those devices, transmitting all that handy data for analysis and action. I mean,
handy data.
Yeah.
That runs the world.
That's how they refer to it. That's the lingo, isn't it? That's the technical term. Handy data.
Handy data.
Somebody needs to start a company called a Handy Data. So networking solutions, they may not be a big part of your portfolio currently. They should be.
Yes.
I think so. But if you desire to be the trusted advisor, trusted provider for your customers, they probably should be part of that conversation.
Yep.
So today we're talking to iONLINE's Dave Farquharson and industry vet, now a BlueStar colleague, Jim Hilton, to help you understand the connectivity landscape. We're going to talk about how to approach selling network solutions, how to find and win opportunities. I mean, we're kind of covering it all.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, we already had this conversation. We're recording this after the fact. It was a good one.
Yeah, it is a very good one.
I think this is going to be one you listen to, and if you don't see a value in that, you probably are listening to the wrong podcast. In the wrong business, and I don't know, maybe go find something else to do with your life, because I think there's a good pitch here for why you should.
Absolutely. Can I make an even bolder claim?
Yes, you may.
If you didn't embrace, what you're about to hear, you're turning away from potentially revolutionizing your life.
Absolutely.
Wow, that was a bold claim.
It really was.
Yes. Yeah. But hey, it's good stuff here.
Revolutionizing your life. Yeah.
Yes.
All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's on our radar. Welcome to BlueStar Nation. This episode of BlueStar Nation is brought to you by ELO and the M51, a rugged mobile computer with 6-inch Full HD touch display, Android 14 OS, a powerful Qualcomm 6490 octa-core processor, integrated NFC, and an optional 2D barcode scanner. 13-megapixel rear camera, IP68 rated, ELO's enterprise-grade support and security, and so much more. Man. They got the goods.
Everything you need right there, baby.
That's right. They got the goods for enhancing retail store operations and warehouse management to ticketing. Boost efficiency with the M51 mobile computer. Check out the link in the show notes for full specs or contact the BlueStar ELO team to learn more. All right, let's get into our guests here on the show today. First up, we got Dave Farquharson. He is the CEO and founder of iONLINE Connected Networks. Dave, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on board. Glad to bring you into this conversation.
Thank you, John.
Give me a little bit of the history of iONLINE. Like, how did this company come about, and what's your guys' kind of like mission statement and goal?
That's a fantastic question. iONLINE started in 2005, years and years ago. Feels like it was just the other day, but it's actually decades ago.
Right.
And yeah, peeling back the pieces, I was actually speaking to Jim about it last night. I was like, well, how did this happen? Well, ultimately it happened because we wanted to solve people's problems. That's where it all starts. Like as a small IT company or connectivity company, you really want to start by solving problems, because that's where opportunity lies. Like if you can solve things, you can create opportunity, you can sell it.
Right.
So that's where we started. And the more that we looked at this, the more we identified that your customers were all the same. They all had similar challenges and similar problems. Some of the things were like, just complexities in their business environment, complexities with suppliers, complexities with everything that they're doing. And that's kind of where we started, like really at the base root. But then we realized very quickly that telecoms was growing and scaling like crazy around the world, or around Africa is where we originally started. And so we solved the problems in Africa. We scaled like crazy. And then we realized that the problems weren't actually in Africa alone. They were actually in the UK, the US, Australia, all around the world. Similar challenges arise with the exact same opportunities to solve. And so what we did is we started scaling all over the world. We scaled in the UK, Australia, parts of Africa, Europe, Latin America, Caribbean, and then into the US as well. So it's been a long journey, exciting journey. I think it's the roadmap for telecoms is changing quickly. But that's pretty much where we started.
Now, there you go. Now you're here to conquer the reseller channel.
Conquer the reseller channel. Well, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, there's so many partners out there, and it's just really tricky to, work with mobile networks and work with solutions, because they're really focused.
Right.
So we're definitely looking to, what do you want to say? Definitely focus on the channel, the market, the reseller channel, and the VAR channel, because they're the biggest guys that need the help. They need the
Yeah, definitely. Well, our other guest today, you might recognize from, I mean, not just on this podcast. You've been on the podcast before, obviously, but you're kind of a channel veteran and pro at this point. We've got Jim Hilton here, and the even better part is now Jim actually works with us here at BlueStar.
That's right.
So not only is he this amazing veteran president that has been throughout the channel and done all this work on all sides over the years, but we got to bring him on board here.
Yes.
He's our new director of networking and connectivity.
Yes.
Jim, welcome back to the pod. Tell us a little bit of your history, because in case someone doesn't know, like, your background and your history.
More than likely, the BlueStar Nation knows a little bit about where I buried all the bodies. But if you look at my career in chapters, there's 3 of them. I started out as the end user, who we would look to as the actual user, all the way up to the buyer from that end user. And I didn't know the meaning of early adoption in 1989, but I thought this automation process, particularly in distribution, supply chain, last mile delivery, whatever you want to, however you want to reference it, was going to catch hold.
Right.
So when we finished our project, I had a choice of diving into supply chain automation as a provider of software, or I could go back to getting up at 4 a.m. and making sure that the routes got out. And so I chose the technology side of that process. So chapter 1 was that. Chapter 2 was about 15 years actually developing software for our industry, our end users out there. And then I went to the dark side of Symbol, Motorola Zebra, beginning 2004. Now I'm here.
Yeah.
With, if you think about our BlueStar Nation, I get to work with all my friends and partners out there that I've known for so many years already.
Yeah. Thanks for all those handy plugs for BlueStar Nation.
There you go.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Keep doing that as much as you want.
Are you sure he's not in marketing?
Maybe. I mean, hey,
There you go.
everybody's a little bit of a marketer.
That's right.
If you think about
Everybody
it.
is.
So.
That's right.
All right, well, gents, let's get into this conversation about selling network solutions, because I think this is one of those things where we all know, obviously, you got to have a network. You've got to have some connectivity. We're selling all these devices that are out there on the edge, but how do you make that happen? And is that really something that VARs want to get involved in? So, Dave, I'm going to let you kick it off by kind of laying the groundwork for us here about what's happening out there in the space. You mentioned, you started in Africa, but then realized, like, hey, we're seeing some of the same problems all across the globe. It's not just a regional thing. So what does the current cellular connectivity landscape looks like? What kind of, challenges are users facing out there to keep those devices connected across their enterprise?
Yeah, thanks, John. Look, the interesting thing about connectivity is it doesn't just start with cellular networks, right? It starts with every bit of connectivity. And if you can remember the 56K dial-up or DigiNet lines or 128 kilobyte ISDN lines, those really cool sounding, I mean, I still miss
handshakes.
It, to be honest. Loved it. And
where are you going with this? I'm cringing right now.
Your mother in the other room picks up the phone to phone someone and kills your connection. That was horrible.
I think we just lost a few subscribers just from having to relive that. Yeah,
exactly. But actually, every now and then I go back and listen to the sound. It's so good. But ultimately, the technology keeps changing, and it will keep changing. Nothing's going to change this. It's going to constantly adapt, constantly get faster, constantly get more advanced in terms of the way things connect. So the top layer services that lie on top of this, obviously are going to rely on things like the 5G networks that are rolling out, 6G that's coming, narrowband IoT, which a lot of people don't know what it's about. It's another version of that connectivity network. Things like private 5G and on-net and off-net private 5G, which a lot of people don't know how that works. But these things are happening all the time. So these are sort of like, the landscape is shifting, but if you understand how to connect things or what the objective is, this underlying connectivity mechanism needs to float around. And it will continuously float around. But you need a partner that's going to kind of navigate that and help people, manage that really rocky and shifting landscape as it moves. eSIM technology is coming out as well, which is another advancement coming into the space of telecoms, which is fantastic because the way we deliver connectivity to devices will eventually become completely virtualized. You won't even have to get a modem from somebody, but it'll just be embedded. There won't be any need to do anything. Some of the complexities, to the second question you had, some of the complexities that partners and companies are struggling with is the lack of interoperability between carriers. So now you've got you've got all this really cool tech, but now you've got, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon. Which one do you pick? How do you pick this? Because the coverage maps aren't always correct either. So you're trying to deploy a large scale solution in the market, and you're getting all these devices from BlueStar, and BlueStar Nation is helping you get all these things out, and it's fantastic. But now you're sitting with a situation where you're driving through Arizona and there's no coverage, or you're trying to put down stores and there's no coverage. So interoperability between the carriers is going to be one of the biggest issues. Obviously, satellite's also coming out, so that's another big piece that's going to be shifting in this market. And that's where we saw the gap. We saw the gap to bring about, how do we pull all that together so that partners and VARs and resellers and integrators can go out there, deploy solutions and not worry about that, by really integrating all the carriers, whether it's AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon in the US, and if they move across the border to Canada, Rogers and all the others will connect. And if they move down to Mexico, wherever they go, they're going to have connectivity wherever, on all their devices.
Yeah. And that's kind of part of the brilliance of what I see here is that interoperability. Is that the right word to use when you're going between carriers? And I think we'll get into maybe some of the technical aspects of it. But for me, that was a crystallization moment in my mind, because who hasn't had that experience where, I've got Verizon, I've got no bars. And then the guy next to you, I'm on T-Mobile, I got full 5G bars. So as consumers, we totally understand that landscape, which is only exacerbated when you get outside of maybe like an urban setting or whatnot, right? Now you're really getting into that. So again, we'll get into that, but into some of the technology behind it. But to me, that was like an aha moment. Like, I get it. Okay, I get it.
Before you go past that, to we consumers, that's just an annoyance,
right?
And
this is fair,
right?
That's right.
I'm going to drive a few miles, and I'll have a signal.
There are no massive stakes involved necessarily for us.
If you think about the end users today, there is so much technology that's happening. If it's on a vehicle, or if it's in that warehouse, or if it's in that retail operation behind the POS. That if that connectivity goes away, even for just a minute or two,
absolutely,
there's maybe even a liability problem. Right. There's certainly safety in some cases, particularly if the vehicle's on the road. Think about front and rear cameras when suddenly they're not feeding anything, and then think about in the retail environment, if the Wi-Fi goes out on the POS system and I have 12 people in line.
None of them can charge anything,
wishing that they could purchase what they have in their cart, we certainly want to process that. That's what's called failover. So that idea of continual connectivity that iONLINE brings to the nation is just critical. Yeah, it's absolutely critical.
Yeah, fair. That's a fair point. And as consumers, we're all starting to get used to seeing I'll just go with like an Amazon truck or whatnot. I mean, my son will sit there and say, "Well, it's going to get delivered here sometime today." Oh no! And then he opens up the app and he literally watches the truck. So. To your point, I mean, that information is critical. So it's critical, obviously, to the consumer, but for a business, your point being, it's even more mission critical. Yeah. And God forbid we would try to do a retail type of transaction using the old car swiper thingies. What do they call those things?
I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, exactly, right. But we all knew what I was talking about.
Absurd.
Anyway.
It's called my watch. Come on.
Fair enough.
That card just sits in my wallet and rots.
That's right.
I don't
That's
do
right.
that anymore.
Yeah.
So then, all right. Well, then, Dave, let's get into the heart of what iONLINE's doing. Then let's talk about this multi-carrier option that you guys have, because I think this can be a game changer and solve some of these problems we're talking about. How does that help solve these problems? The ones you mentioned, the ones that Jim mentioned of, just any amount of disconnection, especially anything that's mission critical, and you can't have that moment of disconnection there. And what business types do you think, benefit the most from that approach? I'm sure anybody could benefit from it, but are there some that really stand out where you've learned that this multi-carrier option really does impact their business and take them to a different level?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we should just take a quick step back before we answer the question, because while multi-carrier options are great and they're definitely required in all of these use cases we're speaking about, there's multiple iterations where the VAR or the integrator or the reseller is going to need maybe a variation to that product. It could be a direct carrier agreement for a specific use case. And so iONLINE doesn't just bring the multi-carrier, it brings all the connectivity mechanisms, whether it's direct carrier agreements, multi-carrier, whether it's narrowband, because you have to have a look at the whole spectrum when you're deploying IoT at scale or any devices at scale. But some of the biggest issues in coverage, I'll give you a quick example on a firefighter down in California. We're working with them on deploying some firefighting connectivity changes to the way that they operate because they were all connected. I'm not going to tell you which mobile network operator because that wouldn't be fair. But they were connected to one of the big three, maybe the biggest of the three. That might give you an idea. and
Everyone's frantically Googling right now.
Check it out. But ultimately, this guy was like, hey, we're fighting fires. And our lives are on the line.
Yeah.
And the tower burns down. And there's another tower, we can see it, but we can't connect to it because we don't have that connection. So we've got no communication where we are. So we gave them a multi-carrier connection for that particular implementation. And now they can switch between all three carriers as those fires are going down, giving them at least a 66% chance of getting connectivity compared to what they had in the past.
Right.
And so I think coverage is a major issue. With that in mind, and I think that solves the problem instantly.
Yeah, that's a great use case right there. You want to talk about mission critical? Doesn't get much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many mission critical components. We've got companies doing tracking solutions, and in some countries in the world, tracking solutions and GPS trackers get jammed when the vehicles get stolen. Well, we can do location-based tracking. So now we can triangulate off the towers, right? So it's another whole security thing, and we can find the people in the cars, which we've done in many cases, even if the signal's been jammed.
Right.
That makes a big difference too. So I mean, some of the other challenges that we see that the VARs and the integrators are having is contractual challenges, real contractual issues with working with mobile networks. I'm just telling you off the bat, if you want to work with any of the big three or any of the networks around the world, you're looking at 18 months. 18 months to set that infrastructure up, set a contract and an agreement up. And most likely you'll have to have your attorney with you because the contracts are so long. So
my guess is they're weighted towards them, not the reseller, right?
100%.
Yeah. You're gonna be outgunned, if you will.
Yeah.
But
All mobile network contracts are positioned for them to win.
That's right.
It's kind of like the casino.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And that's what we did differently. We really stripped that all apart. And we built it for VARs and integrators and resellers to strip out those contractual complications, give them multi-carrier, let them connect to any network they want, strip apart these bundles that carriers push down on IoT vendors, and allow them to use the data granularly. So now they can really scale. The whole idea about connectivity is how do you implement it and then how do you scale your devices, which makes a big difference to device sales. Because now you can move hundreds of thousands as opposed to just 10,000 or 1,000 because it's just too complicated. Yeah, so that's some of the interesting.
I want to make sure we don't move away from that point without talking about the value of actionable visibility. One thing when I first met iONLINE, I was blown away with the dashboards. In other words, everything that we've talked about up to this point has been operational at the edge, which is absolutely where it starts to have that connectivity. But the management and the visibility of that data or that activity or that breadcrumbing that you just talked about with GPS, every bit of that's built in, I've actually seen body language as Dave has talked through live demonstrations. I've seen body language from that end user change on the spot simply because they say, oh, I get to see that if I use iONLINE. That actionable visibility to management is that other part to this that also gets lost in this connectivity simply because that's operational. As soon as you turn that on, you actually don't see that part of it because it's just working. The dashboards, that's powerful.
Yeah, we're always told by partners and my integrators that if you can't manage it, don't buy it. just leave it on the shelf, because the more you scale that, you're just scaling complexity and problems.
Yeah.
So management was the forefront of everything we did here. So at the very top level, you can manage every SIM card, every network, You can see which networks it's connecting to. You can see the private IP addresses that are assigned to all your devices. You can manage the throttling and the usage control around data bundles if you have a data bundle. You can set notifications and capping and top-ups, and you can see exactly on a map, on a Google map, where that SIM is connecting right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, does this make more sense like for an operation where there's a massive amount of devices, or can this even be as simplified as like, all right, I've got a small trucking company, where I'm only doing like a fleet of like 5 vehicles and I've got, 1 or 2 devices in each vehicle. Is this viable there too? Or is there a threshold here?
Look, I mean, the threshold it's between consumer and enterprise. That's the threshold.
Yeah.
This doesn't really fit well into consumer. Consumers like to go to the store and pay $40 overpriced, uncapped connectivity and just get a bundle or just get a connectivity plan and just not worry about anything.
Right.
The scary thing is they're paying more than double what they should be paying, but they don't know that. And that's where the carriers make most of their money.
Yeah.
But for any enterprise, even if it's 5 vehicles or 10 vehicles, it doesn't matter, because the reason why they've only got 5 or 10 is because it's complicated. As soon as we can unlock some of the technology on the back end of how they can scale and connectivity becomes simple and their systems become easier to manage, you'll probably find they move from a trucking company of 5 to 500. And we've seen it multiple times throughout the 20 years we've been doing this, where we've started with a company with small amounts of connectivity. And one such company is a POS company we've dealt with. It's gone to 500,000 POS machines.
Wow.
And they started with a small number. I think it was about 20,000 when they started. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. That answers your question, John.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So the use case, well, I'm just saying the use case is anything that needs to be connected.
Yeah.
So it's like, is that a big enough umbrella?
And
I don't
guess
know.
what? Everything needs to be connected.
That's
That's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I was about to go to that exact point. Is you would be amazed at the devices that are at the edge that have slot for an iONLINE card.
Yeah.
It is every time Dave and I have a conversation about a new project that's going on, I go into awe. I didn't think about that use case in connectivity. My mind starts with a truck and oftentimes ends with a truck.
Yeah,
but
it's kind of your life for a long time.
Yeah.
But this is it's all around us, and it is growing exponentially. If you think about the idea, there is one operation that is actually looking at that I've seen in my past that is actually looking at in their distribution centers not even having a Wi-Fi network on premise. Why? Because the application's sitting in the cloud and the workers have a mobile device.
Right.
Solves the problem.
Why put the infrastructure in?
The craziest example I've ever seen is we've got a partner that's got ankle trackers for inmates. That's a crazy example.
You want connected at all times.
We've got lots of different things connected. Yeah.
Well, yeah. You can either throw an AirTag in their pocket, or you can
Exactly.
And hope they don't find it sewn in their clothes.
Yeah. I have a technical question. Is part of the differentiation here is that you can track different carriers on a single SIM?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I figured.
Well, let me ask a question feeding to that point. I know I'm setting you up with this question. So much in
Jim, you want us to leave? You can just take over.
in my career, I particularly on the Zebra side, looking at global manufacturing, so much of that starts in the U.S. and those manufacturers expand externally. So imagine, if you will, one of our nation has an end user that is based here, but they would like one vendor to supply connectivity across the entirety of the Americas, or maybe even several continents. Is that iONLINE?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the whole purpose behind the platform.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, we connect all 759 carriers in the world into that single SIM. To answer your question.
There you
go. It's not just the 3 in the US, right?
Yeah.
Right. And over all 220 countries. I thought there was only 189, but there's actually 220 countries and territories in the world. And we've just done the 66th country that we have physical connectivity in right now. But we can connect to all of them. Yeah. So as these devices move in and out of the US, they stay connected. And they stay, and I guess one of the biggest issues with doing that is security. Security has become the biggest issue with IoT, and it's going to be the biggest issue as this thing scales. Because a lot of partners are going to the store, picking up consumer SIM cards and plugging in their consumer SIM cards into these devices. And they're running security platforms. They might even be running the traffic lights down in the city.
Yes.
And they're consumer SIM cards. Consumer SIM cards aren't built or structured or secured in the way they should be. They've got public IP addresses on them.
Right.
So if you want to do an attack on a network and bring down a city, it's going to be fantastic for them. But all of the SIM cards that iONLINE supplies all have zero trust enablement on them. And they have complete security network segmentation. So we're segmenting each customer's network separately from everyone else's. And that's why we've got the US government, we've got a whole bunch of governments around the world that really use this platform, because we can segment and prioritize and privatize the traffic flow for their network and then keep them connecting to all the networks while they transverse around the world.
So you're saying this is SIM level security, right? Or is it network even chips level on your...
Yeah, it's both SIM level security. There's a SIM level security piece, which I'll talk about a little later, but it's really a good point, because you have to have it at the SIM level and the device level.
Yeah,
right. Because someone can steal the SIM card.
Yeah.
But you can steal these SIM cards, you can't connect with them because you need a special authentication mechanism to connect with these SIMs, which makes using them completely safe for your environment and for your scale and your operations. And then there's network level security, which is in the core. So your firewalls, your intrusion detection, your unified threat management, advanced firewalling is all sitting in the core behind this and controlling all the network segmentation. So customers are getting a whole bunch more than just a SIM card.
Right. So help me understand that visualization. Is that part of iONLINE's differentiation there?
Yep.
Your platform includes that level of security, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, it's three layers. It's the SIM card, it's the network, and then it's the management control.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to have all three layers built in to really scale a project.
But the security across carriers is there, right? Is what you're saying.
Yep.
So,
That's amazing. You said 759 carriers around the world?
isn't that crazy? That's
nuts.
Well, you know, there's a carrier in, I don't know, Punta Cana, right? There's
true.
a carrier.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
You know.
And the challenge is each country you get to, there's at least two or three, right? So every country facing the same problems the US is facing.
Yeah.
As your device moves across that country, one network's going to fall over.
Yep.
You need to be able to switch. So now you've got multi-carrier, multi-country.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine, especially also, I think of like places like the EU, where there's so much, cross-border, traffic and travel and business going on. And I'm sure that comes with a whole extra set of headaches when there's different carriers in every single one of those places. So, Jim, to your point, this is one of those things I feel like you don't really think about it until you realize what's actually happening and the potential of it. Yeah. To that end, Let's address the elephant in the room here, which is the VARs themselves, because I know there's a lot of folks listening, watching right now. They may be like, all right, this all sounds good. iONLINE sounds like they got an awesome solution, but I've been burned by network stuff in the past. It's not something I feel comfortable doing. I usually just leave it to the big carriers to manage all this stuff.
I do the device, forget the connectivity.
Yeah, exactly. What do you say to that? What kind of experiences do you think people have been having in the past? Why are they gun shy now? And why do you think this is the time to maybe think a little bit different about it with someone like an iONLINE?
Well, I want to start out with a positive first.
Okay.
Just like when we were at the supply chain forum and I introduced my friend to the room. iONLINE has recurring revenue.
Ding, ding, ding.
For BlueStar Nation. I think I said that crisply enough right there. So there's a recurring revenue, which is golden in our business right there. Yep. The second thing that brings to the table is that puts account control in BlueStar Nation's hands. I personally have lost a deal in my prior life with on the hardware side. We had a phenomenal meeting. We were told that we won the business. We were high-fiving in the parking lot. All they had to do was reach out to the carrier the next day and set up connectivity. That carrier the next day said, well, why are you paying for that industrial grade device that you just committed to? Why don't you take this free phone?
Oh, good grief.
Submarine the deal.
Yeah.
And submarine the deal. Account control is king. And this is what BlueStar is bringing to the nation. I get to say it again. Yeah. We're bringing that account control to you. And what that's going to do is not only shorten your sales cycle because you have everything coming from BlueStar, And it also it provides that account control and recurring revenue for the referral fee that's coming along with iOnline.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic.
But, so let's cut to the chase, though, because, again, to your point, John, if I'm a reseller today and I have decided not to get into connectivity, I've made that decision, meaning I have my reasons, right? And maybe I don't know. So let's dive a little bit deeper. So I hear you and amen. I love the recurring revenue side. I love the stickiness of having my partner with me. But am I going to need, let's just start out, am I going to need more resources? Do I need to have a network guru now? Do I need to have a Jim Hilton on my,
Well, first of all, you've got BlueStar at the end of the phone that we can't help.
Yeah.
But the more powerful conversation is you have iOnline. There are several ways to work with iOnline at partner level, and I don't want to steal your thunder. Matter of fact, I would say have a call.
No, you're doing great, John. You're doing great. You just keep going, man. This is fantastic.
I would invest 45 minutes to have a conversation with iOnline and happy to sit on that call.
To understand what the,
to understand the options. One of those options is simply pull the iOnline rep into the account with you because they can bring the intellectual property. You have the phone number and the confidence. You're the trusted advisor with that end user. Your job, our job, is to bring solutions to that that end user. And here is expert number one, iOnline for connectivity. And I want to make sure we don't use, you said 2 or 3 times, you talked about private. When I first met iOnline, I was blown away with the technology stack. So much of the carriers, even some of the multi-carrier options out there are single-threaded. And
explain that. What do you mean by that?
Meaning that, and you may have to explain that because let me say where I was going to go.
Okay.
So where I was blown away with Dave and iOnline was I can have that, let's call it a comparison to a normal carrier. Oh, I need private LTE. iOnline says yes.
Got it.
I need CBRS. iOnline says yes. Matter of fact, and I'll let you finish this part of the sentence, I think satellite communication, everything I read about communication is there's going to be some point in our short career that the towers will kind of be antiques, that satellite communication will be it. iOnline says yes. If you've got the money and you've got the need and you've got the place where that really has to occur, then iOnline.
What says you, Dave?
You're the yes man, apparently.
I've obviously said yes to everything, but no, it's a good point, Jim. I mean, at the end of the day, we need to connect everything. So, and everything has a different need and way which it wants to connect. I believe devices come alive. I see devices as people, as things that want to live, that give them a bit of an emotion. Some devices want to go fast. Some devices want to go slow. Some devices are stuck with no coverage in the desert. But they all come alive, right? And so we got to think about these technologies. We got to partner with value-added resellers and our integrators on that level that Jim's speaking about. And we have over 400 global partners already. And so we're well versed with unpacking how these VARs can use the platform and make value out of it. I mean, our partners are making millions out of this. And the reason why is because they've now got a trusted partner in the background that can help them with the solutions architect design. We help them design it. We help them. We'll consult. We do the consultancy for free. We don't charge for that, and we'll work through that until they've got a solution that's going to work and that's going to help them scale. Right. So we really empower them. We also train them. We provide them all the materials, resources that they need to provide back to their customers as they dissolve the product. And on top of that, we also allow for co-branded platforms or branded platforms. So some of our resellers have got fully branded enablement platforms. They're reselling. They're not even touching us. They've got their own engineers, their own solutions architects, which is great. They've got their own network division. So if they want to go that route, if they want to go that route, we'll empower them to do that. But if they don't want to do that and they're far less sophisticated and they just want someone to back them up and partner with them and push the product, we'll do the same.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking of. I mean, there's tiering obviously within the channel.
Yeah.
You've got your tier tier one partners out there that have a networking practice. They may have some architects and things of that nature. But once you start getting below into the tier two, which is where a lot of the scaling opportunity is going to occur, you're going to have, alligator arms on some of these resellers. Like, well, I don't know about connectivity,
It's more like
blah, blah,
T-Rex.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah, T-Rex. I'm sorry. Yeah. Type of thing. And we're trying to bring that barrier down, right?
Yeah.
And so you're saying, so from step number one, okay, I don't need the technical expertise. I can lean on iONLINE. And I guess we're giving out Farquharson's your cell number so that everybody can call you. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So we've got that aspect down. But now and maybe I'm jumping ahead and I apologize if I am, but you're saying, and I guess you're saying, Jim, that there's a recurring revenue. So with the recurring revenue, there's also a managed service aspect of this, correct?
Yes.
And that gets into your dashboarding and helping. So a reseller now can become even more stickier because they're now embedded into the connectivity of the devices and helping to manage those, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And today, where Dave was headed with that, there is that SMB integrator, part of the nation, that really just wants to have the assistance and go close the deal with us to and have that be on iONLINE paper. There is, right alongside on this call, are those more sophisticated that do have the support structure, that do have the resources, and wait a minute, they would like just a larger cut of that recurring revenue and take on much more of the responsibility around it.
Yep.
iONLINE gets to say yes to that as well.
Yeah, we have many partners like that. And so we'll either take on first level, second level, third level support for the customer or provide them the training to do first level support, and we'll just tackle second level and third level network support. But it's a networking product. It's not just selling SIM cards, right? There's a whole concept to this. And like we've got one partner that's busy tracking and monitoring all the gas leakage on pipes from Canada down to Texas. And so they need narrowband technology, but they got really good support and good internal teams to manage their little devices that are monitoring the gas leakages, but they have no idea about networking. So that's where we integrate with them and we support them along the project.
That's a really good use case, though, and that's my point. Like, typically resellers know their product, their solution really, really well, but are going to shy away from the connectivity. And what we're saying is, don't be so shy. Because you can lean on iONLINE, number one. Number two, recurring revenue, which is something we always talk about. It's like, if I could just get a check in the mail for not doing a whole lot, I mean, why wouldn't I be interested in that? But more importantly, it helps our resellers maintain long-term viability by having now a revenue stream that's coming in that's a part of the complete solution, right? Yeah.
So there's one of those complete solutions.
Yeah, there's another big piece of that, and that is staging in the BlueStar warehouse. We've got a partner that installs 10,000 devices a month. How do you actually do that?
Yeah, right?
I mean, you've got, and I'm not joking, like we've just placed an order for 80,000 connections, and it's again a POS device platform. Wow. And then they're going to roll that out within the next 8 months. Jeez. So it's 10,000 a month, which means just 2,500 devices you got to get out of the store and into the customer's hands. And these are POS devices, so there's a physical interaction with every customer. You can't do that unless you're staging in the warehouse. SIM cards are embedded in the devices. That whole articulation is complete, and it ships out the door ready and hot. Shipping hot is definitely the way you do that kind of implementation. And you can't do that if you don't have a partner that's really integrated at the manufacturing and warehouse level.
Wow.
For large scale products,
for large scale products,
or solutions,
Enter BlueStar.
That's right. And shipping it hot, baby. That's right.
There you go.
Well, speaking of which, so Jim, talk a little bit more about your new role here with us, and what can our VARs expect from BlueStar when it comes to networking solutions, with folks like iONLINE and beyond.
Well, I started out. I should have had scratch paper here because I was going to mark down the number of times we said networking and the number of times we said connectivity. So
because they are interchangeable, or not interchangeable, but like they should be put together.
I lost count. So think of networking as devices at the edge. Now, the first thing when we say the word networking, we might think access points or whatever. Right. But think about it more generally as that device, whether it's a sensor, like Dave just touched on, or that router or that access point that's in the warehouse, or the backup failover router that's underneath or behind the POS system. Or it's that mobile device that's out on my friendly trucks. In every one of those cases, to us, that's networking that's at the edge. Now, we're going to get very specific with lining up best-of-breed network offerings within BlueStar as part of this division that serves that specific purpose. And so there'll be more to come on that. But networking and connectivity goes together, number one. And what we're going to do, Dave actually touched on it, gave a little bit of advance notice, but if you think about the value prop that BlueStar brings to the nation, think about the idea of not only having that relationship with iONLINE, but when that customer orders those 1,000 devices, they actually show up at the end user already activated, already ready to use. So it's not even a matter of figuring out how to configure them. They're ready to go simply because they were ordered out of BlueStar.
Yeah, that impacts so many different industries. I mean, we're working with healthcare. Healthcare is going to be the biggest connected device industry in the world. And then you've got agriculture.
That's a bold claim.
It is. Right now, it's
it.
like it's.
But it should be. It makes sense. Yeah.
Because the aging of people are just getting so much bigger.
Yeah.
And remote healthcare is going to be a big issue.
That's right.
So remote healthcare
From wearables to the nursing station to
and there's just hundreds of devices that spin around that. You've got retail, you've got utilities, you've got public safety, you've got smart agriculture, financial services, even education. Smart education is massive. So all these industries, we pack them, we bring them to the VARs, we show them what industries to go after, and we show them how to attack them, and also what the value proposition for each one of these industries are.
I promise we didn't practice this last night. But what Dave just walked through is the idea that someone watching this video is segmented in one segment that I may have already touched about. I said the word trucks about 5 times already. But someone else that says, wait a minute, I focus on healthcare. Wait a minute, I focus on oil and gas. And that is part of the BlueStar Nation. That is what it is that we do. And networking and connectivity, the division, is being stood up to focus as it should in each one of those, but recognizing that we're bringing horizontal solutions and verticalizing them with messaging.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
You should have been in marketing. You're doing fantastic.
He is. He's doing a heck of a job. Yeah.
I love it.
All right. Well, go ahead.
I wanted to dive a little bit more before we transition off, and I want to super convince resellers that this is not as difficult as they may think it is to get involved in, because again, they have options today, and some of them have chosen not to get involved in this. So I get it. I'm hearing that we can lean on BlueStar, we can lean on iONLINE for resources and things like that, but when you get granular, let's go one area like billing, for example, for the connectivity and stuff like that. All of that is aggregated through iONLINE. I can win a deal. I've got 1,000 devices that need to go out into the world. I'm going to be on bread trucks, in my area. I am the reseller. I've sold that to the bread company. Great. But now I got the billing for the data. Now I'm back to like fear mode. Like I don't, my little company can't handle billing for 1,000 devices. You guys are helping.
Yeah. So one of the biggest challenges, again, back to the mobile network operators, the like individual old mobile network operator style, they were built around billing complexity. We know this. I think there's not a person in this world that hasn't got a bill shock at some point.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I
it's amazing.
It's crazy.
It is.
I landed in Washington and used Google Maps to get to New York because I had no idea where I was going. And when I got there, I got a call from my PA. She said, "Hey, whatever you're doing, stop doing it right now. It's $17,000." I'm like, what do you mean? Wow. It was pure roaming on an old consumer package I had with an MNO, right?
Man.
Direct MNO, which is catastrophe for any business, especially if you've got 1,000 of those.
Yeah.
So the platform that we provide VARs with is real-time management, real-time control of every single data byte that moves through your network. And you can tie that right back to your data rate. So your cost is in real time, and you're not waiting 30 days for your invoice And you're like, now what do I do? And then it's too late because you've gone another 30 days. So now you're 60 days into a bad window. You've now got it in real time. So absolutely. We manage that entire thing for them.
Okay.
And that's where that actionable visibility those dashboards come in.
That you're speaking of, yes. Where you can manage it. You can have resources if you want around that. Can iOnline help with that, though? If I'm a reseller that doesn't really want to get into that, you can have direct relationships then?
We'll handle, if the reseller doesn't want to get involved and they just want to bring the deal in and we sign the client up directly, absolutely no worries at all.
Yeah. I mean,
and they're still benefiting from the recurring revenue.
Yeah, I mean, what don't we have covered at this point? Like, right? I don't understand how you can listen to this conversation and be like, I'm still out. I don't want to hear this. All right, well, we'll let Dave wrap that up a little more succinctly here in a moment, too, to make sure that you really understand why you should be working with them.
There you go.
Before we do that, first, a quick note of what's happening in BlueStar Nation right now. BlueStar's 2U Tour is getting ready to kick off with a brand new slate of 2025 traveling road shows.
That's right.
We kick off March 20th in Miami, Florida. Now, if you don't know what the 2U Tour is, we combine a tech expo, education, networking. We usually do it in some kind of a cool venue.
Different networking. Now, this is camaraderie,
Yeah, exactly.
Although maybe we'll get Jim on the road.
I mean, hey,
you should.
Do you want to go to Miami, Jim?
I'll do that.
See, there you go. Yeah.
I was going to say, this first event.
I saw the venue.
Right. The first event's on a 100-foot yacht. You're taking a Skyline Sunset cruise. So, I don't know why someone would want to do that.
Right.
So, we do throw some fun in and some beverages and snacks along the way, too. But it's a great way to get out and meet with some local partners, find out what's going on in the technology space, and maybe get a little educated. I think we're doing some stuff around marketing and personal branding this year. So go to our show notes. There's going to be a link there to the 2U Tour page. Bookmark that, because as we come up with new dates down the road, you can find those and register for them, and there will be something in an event somewhere near you within the U.S. over the coming year. As always, if you like this show, our newly refreshed and rebranded BlueStar Nation podcast.
You got a job to do.
You got to like and subscribe. So if you're listening on a podcast platform, just subscribe, send it to somebody you know, leave us a rating and review if you have that option. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, just hit the like button for this episode. That just takes a second.
Right?
I mean, just turn your head for a second, click like, leave us a comment maybe too, and just say, hey, that was a great conversation. Or I don't know, tell us how awesome Dave's hair is. Or
That's
something.
right. Yes.
At least I have hair, guys. That's right. A little bit of hair.
Oh, man.
Dave was throwing us all under the bus before we went on here. Of course, check out the BlueStar Nation blog. It's where we're doing some fantastic articles and doing deep dive surveys into stuff that's going on in the industry, so you can learn more about what end users are actually experiencing and what opportunities might be out there for you. And of course, submit your ideas for the podcast. If there's conversations you want us to have, if you want us to drag Jim back on and talk about some more networking connectivity stuff, we're happy to do that. But you got to tell us. You can always find us on BlueStar's LinkedIn page, or you can email us at our brand new email address, nation@bluestarinc.com. All right, let's wrap things up here. First of all, with our big recurring segment we always do to kind of wrap up the conversation, a little value to the VAR here. And Dave, Jim, I'll let you guys both kind of tag team us a little bit, but let's talk about what iONLINE is looking for in this channel. I think we've kind of touched on a lot of this, what you guys can do and how you can help, but why did you want to get into this channel? Why did you want to start working with resellers? How are you going to help them find opportunities, win business, and also overcome all these challenges we've talked about, all the reasons why people may not want to touch networking? How are you going to help them get over that?
Yeah, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to really keep it simple. So obviously we're looking for resellers and integrators. Resellers, integrators, partners that want to take product to the market and scale. Like that's really where we really do thrive. And we look at it in a 3-step approach. First step is they're going to identify some stuff. They're going to identify projects that they found. They're going to bring it to us. We're going to have a consultative approach with that. We'll work through every single one of these with these partners and make sure that the solution they're going to get actually does service the need they need to do. If it doesn't, we're going to tell them, hey, rather than do this, right? And after we've done that, we're going to deploy the service for them. So it's a really quick 3-step approach: identify, create a solution, and deploy. How we're going to help them find markets and find industries is we have training. We're going to have monthly training on use cases, industry type products and services that are going into different markets, how we see the world, and hopefully those VARs will come into some of those training components, and we'll provide them additional literature as they sign up with us. And so they're going to get constantly fed with opportunities in the market where we see connectivity going out where devices are needed. And that's going to help scale their imagination, because as soon as someone sees the big picture, you know, as an entrepreneur, you're just connecting the dots. You know, you just need somebody to help you see the big picture.
Right.
So that's kind of the approach that we're going to take with VARs. Obviously, again, also look at co-branding opportunities with them. Look at some of the VARs that you guys have got really good specialty skills, which we could use and part of some of our other partnerships. So we've got partners all around the world that are looking for sort of a marketplace of partners they can use for specific deployments. One partner in the UK right now is looking for somebody to do 7.9 million water sensor deployments in the US.
Wow.
You know, we don't have a partner for that. And maybe there is one. So, you know, so this architecture or this infrastructure will both fuel connectivity, fuel sales, and fuel partnerships, and fuel new things that haven't been deployed before. So that's our approach.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very nice.
All right, on that opportunity, you know who you are. I
was gonna say, someone
I know who you are too.
Right.
There's an opportunity here.
Someone out there should be getting excited about that. Yeah. Jim, anything you wanted to add on the partnership with iONLINE?
I think. Well, first of all, we're tremendously excited about having this relationship. I think it brings so much to the community. No need to rehash every bit of that we've already talked about. What I would recognize if I were on the nation side is that this is a strategic discussion. This is not a tactical one. And that doesn't mean it's hard. What that means is you actually have a chance to change and add to your value prop to your end user, your customer. And if you look at it that way, you've got effectively a toolkit sitting right here that's at your beck and call.
I'm going to hover on that for just a second, because, you know, when you think about the opportunity, it's at the beginning of the year. Everybody's got new quotas. Yeah. Everybody's got new strategies that they've tried to outline about how we're going to grow the business. And when you think about it, okay, you can just grow through organic and you've got a marketing plan and stuff like that. But when you think about it in the way that you're framing it up, Jim, you know, strategically, think about how you could strategically change your business by incorporating connectivity and what we've discussed today. I mean, you are adding into, yes, all the stickiness, but yes, recurring revenue and getting into even more opportunities that you may not have been aware of, prior to that. So it's you have to have a kind of a different mindset. Yeah. And how are you going to do that growth? Well, this is a path. This is a path to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll finish that out. When you decide to look into this and say yes, think about it not as a try and think about or try and call to customers and just lackadaisically look at it. That strategic decision calls for that training, maybe that an onboarding process that says, okay, I've got 10 salespeople, and those 10 salespeople maybe have 100 end users that they talk to. Who's the top 3? Who's the first 3 that we want to introduce? That's kind of an onboarding exercise that will ensure that this gets off the ground properly.
I love the crawl, walk, run, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you can dip your toe into this, start getting people trained up, get the muscle memory of what it is to talk about this and engage, get those opportunities rolling.
And recognize that the sales cycle is actually fun. It's really fun. If you think about it, somewhere halfway through that introduction, you'll start to hear the customers, the end user, ask questions that will really be restated as "prove it." I got to see this, and I've watched Dave, and this was actually out of the country. Latin friends of mine, one of our good friends and partners, essentially said, "I've got this market, I've got this end user. How can we prove this out?" And today they have trial sims in their hand, and they're going to go on those trucks if they're not already on. Are they on there yet?
I think they are on already, yeah.
They're on there, yes. And what every one of us get to do is take a look at that data every single week, showing them the value of that data on those trial sims. So that idea of prove it says, prove to me that it works. And now I'm going to prove to you also that you get actionable visibility that you never had before.
There you go.
I love the challenge to this. Hold my beer. The channel will embrace that type of attitude for
doubt.
sure. Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
someone who got out of sales because it was rarely fun.
Right.
I like hearing that there's an opportunity to find some fun and enjoyment.
It is
in
a lot
it.
of fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, let's wrap up as always with what's on our radar. This is where we get to talk about something in the world of tech, innovation, science, news. I don't know, it could be just entertainment, something that's caught our eye. Jim, I'll let you kick off here. What's on your radar right now?
Besides what we've just talked
Yeah.
about.
Yes, besides
Like,
that.
what else are you interested in?
I am. I'm always interested in robotics.
Okay.
I think that another one of our partners, as every time I get around Buck, I sit and in awe at what that technology can bring and solve. The idea that BlueStar gets to be involved in that leading edge, I'm not even going to say cutting edge because I've seen those things work. It's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
The way
You
we
want to talk
love
about
it.
something that's going to need some connectivity? Those robots.
You got that right.
You gotta keep those
Every
connected,
single
too.
one of them got to be connected.
They don't do much of anything if they're not connected.
Nope.
So.
Nope. Yep.
Dave, what about you? What's on your radar right now?
Yeah, I mean, a little while back, I was in San Francisco and I jumped into a Waymo car.
How was that?
It was the
Were you white knuckling the whole time? Or?
we were petrified. First of all, the car was 10 minutes late. Like, that's the first thing. But it was because there were so many people wanting to use it. But when we got in the car, there was no one sitting in the driver's
That's
seat.
right.
And it was just
Empty
weird.
driver's seat, yeah.
And the steering wheel's still turning. So you kind of just want to reach out and grab it. And it says, do not grab the steering wheel.
Does it actually have a sign that says that?
Yeah, it says, do not touch. If
I
you
mean,
touch,
it makes sense, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, it'll pull over and ask you to leave.
Yeah.
Like, that's the deal.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but this thing drove us around for an hour. And we drove down to the San Francisco Bridge. And as we were getting there, I was like, well, we're so far away from the city. What are we going to do? How do we get back? So you press the help button and it calls somebody and someone talks to you as if they're in the driver's seat.
Okay.
Wow.
And I said to the guy, can you ask the car just to wait for us while we just take some pictures? And then we'll get back in. He said, no, it can't do that. It's just going to leave. So he said, just leave the door open. And then the car will just stay. So we're like, okay. So
There's a hack for you.
There's a hack, right? So we all jumped out and we left the door open and the car closed the door and drove off.
Nice.
So I'm like,
no.
now we're stuck. So we took some pictures and then I jumped back on the app and called the car back. I searched for a car, called Waymo back, and the same car came back and picked us up. And we drove around for an hour. It was fantastic. I mean, that thing missed potholes. It missed beacons on the road. It turned the right. It watched people walking across the road with their dogs. And it was fantastic. It really was a good example of how AI meets tech and connectivity all in one go. Right. So that was. But I think more important, Dean, you brought up AI at the last event we were at. Everything was about AI. My mother started AI at 82 years old.
Okay.
And this last year, she developed 25 music albums, or not the full album, 25 music songs with video and AI singing. And she's absolutely brilliant. I'll buy those videos from
Get
her.
out of town.
And she's 82 years old.
Nice.
So I just thought, back to your point about AI again.
I love it.
Fantastic new stuff on the radar.
Yeah,
That is awesome.
That is cool.
Dig it. All
I
right.
don't know that I'm getting in the Waymo car, by the way. But anyway. And I've got a Tesla for crying out loud.
Yeah. My thing is, as it's always been, I'm cool with the self-driving cars. It's everyone else that's still driving their own by hand. That scares me. They're the variable that I'm terrified of.
Yeah. Well, they used to say that about elevators. Like, when elevators first came out, people were like horrified to get in this. And now it's just so silly to think about.
That's a good point.
So,
someday it'll be the same with the self-driving cars.
By the way, we do connect elevators as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, Dean, what's on your radar?
Well, I'm gonna stay in the AI world because I came across this. We always talk about how ChatGPT or LLMs are literally taking jobs away and things of that nature. Well, here's one I never really thought of. How about a therapist? Would you go to a ChatGPT therapist? Let's say you needed couples therapy.
Yeah.
And
I don't know about couples therapy because sometimes it'd be nice to have that buffer. Not that I've ever been in couples therapy, but I would think
me neither,
the buffer would be helpful.
Okay, you want the human interaction and not just like plugging it into GPT. Right. Well, 830 study participants actually went through this. Were men and women who were in relationships who had a little bit, some issues going on. Right. Some of them interface with an actual therapist. Some of them actually interface with ChatGPT. Participants had, difficulty difficulty when they got into it, though, because they were interfacing, even though they were interfacing with a therapist to make it fair, you didn't actually see the therapist. But so they had, when the answers were coming back, the people that were receiving the therapy had a hard time distinguishing between what an actual therapist giving them advice and ChatGPT. And actually, as it turns out, the participants, as the study continued to go on, they actually started to prefer the ChatGPT because there were 5 factors of that. There was whether the response understood the speaker, it showed empathy, it was appropriate for the therapy setting, and was relevant for various cultural backgrounds. So there were different reasons why ChatGPT was actually outperforming therapists. So there you go. If you're in therapy or in studying to become a therapist, might want to rethink that.
You might, yeah. Or you just got to up your game a little bit.
Or you got to up your game.
Or you just be the therapist that uses ChatGPT. It's quite easy.
There it is. Yeah.
The whole time they're talking, you're just recording them and just like spit out what it says back to them or something. Yeah.
Anyway, we're all just going to be sitting in pods, and wasn't that WALL-E?
It's WALL-E. Yes.
Where we're sitting in pods, floating around.
We're
the
all heading towards WALL-E, where we just sit in our pods. We just increasingly gain weight. We don't actually speak to each other.
That's right.
We're right next to each other. We talk through screens.
That's right. Yeah.
That's where we're headed. All right.
So anyway, what's on your radar?
Now, that assumes actually that humanity survives over the next few decades, because it's time to get out your apocalypse bingo cards of what could potentially happen on Earth here in the next few hundred years or so. In fact, much sooner, because apparently we have a potential for an asteroid collision.
I heard about this.
Yes. So the asteroid known as 2024 YR4.
We got to do better with
is
naming.
One that, yeah, exactly, that NASA has been monitoring for some time. It has a 1 in 43, that's a 2.3% chance of hitting the Earth in December of 2032. Now, mind you,
that's a little too close.
That has actually increased in just the last few weeks. When they initially spotted this and brought it out, it was like a 1 point something percent. Now we're up to 2.3% chance.
When is this? 2032?
2032.
And
we're not talking that far off.
How big of a rock is this?
150 feet or 180 feet wide, approximately. Actually, they don't even know the exact measurements.
Wide. Okay, yeah.
Because for now, they've just been like scanning it with shadows and light bouncing off of it from where it's at.
I understand.
As it gets closer, they'll do a little bit better job. They're actually going to deploy the JW.
Right. I was going to say, don't we have a really big, a good camera out there right now? They're going to
take up some of its precious time to take a look at this thing a little closer. But basically, we're not talking about the planet killer like the dinosaurs. Okay. We're talking about what they estimate at worst is although again, this is still bad, a city killer, where if it exploded, it would apparently be up to an 8 megaton, 500 times the strength of the Hiroshima bomb that could potentially explode over a city or somewhere else on Earth. Now, again, it's a minute chance. We're actually going to apparently be this thing's going to be kind of close to us quite a few times over the next 100 years or so. But this will be the December 2032 will be the one time that it has the highest potential chance of actually striking the Earth.
You know what's strange about that is it's always on my wife's birthday, 21st of December. Always seems to the date where some catastrophe can happen.
You might get out of buying her a gift that year. I don't know.
Bro, you better be careful right now. She's going to listen to this and be like, connectivity cut off.
So the estimate of where it's going to hit was potentially, I think, somewhere like southern hemisphere, I believe. Again, all of it's still estimates at this point. And I don't know. I mean, maybe we just did that thing a few years ago where we went out there and launched an object that pushed an asteroid.
Yes.
So, I mean, if we know this is happening and we have enough time, maybe there's an ability to actually change it.
Armageddon, we can.
Yeah, we get Armageddon and send up some of those miners up there.
We need Bezos and Elon to start, sharpening their spacecraft to get up there.
So maybe we have something to not look forward to in a few years. Hopefully that 2.3% chance is,
amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of thing you put money on and you get excited if you win. This is one, hopefully, that we don't win.
This is all the doomsayers need, is like a ticking time bomb, right? When is the date? 2032?
2032, yeah. I know we had all these Mayan calendar, other world-ending events that were supposed to occur.
Nostradamus, we were supposed to be dead by now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just another one you can add to your list. All right, that's what's on our radar this week. Hey, Dave Farquharson, Jim Hilton, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate having you on the show.
For having us on the show.
Obviously, check out iONLINE. We'll drop a link to their website in the show notes. Reach out to Jim if you have questions about this stuff or anything related to networking connectivity. And hey, don't be shy.
That's right.
Put it.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Don't be shy. There's no reason not to go out there and sell this stuff. Thanks so much for joining us in BlueStar Nation.